We were apparently at boot camp in Akuku community, Oshimiri, North local government area, where a site engineer, a cousin to this man who was here, workers he employed, because they saw a particular amount of money on his phone, they conspired, they murdered him, and buried him at a shallow grave just by the site.
So a young man who went missing in December of 2024 has been found dead in a shallow grave, completely decomposed into bones, at the construction site where he was last seen. 38-year-old Chigozie Udalo was a construction manager, some sort of construction engineer. He was also a father of 3. And at the time of his disappearance, his wife was expecting the 4th child. Around December of 2024, his cousin, a young man named Ascent Nalue, gave him the project to construct a fish pond for his business. Ascent is a businessman, and it seems as though Ascent wanted to do some kind of fish pond and wanted to basically venture into fish farming. So he reached out to his cousin, Chigozie, who is the construction engineer, and told Chigozie, see, what's up? I want to construct a fish pond. The land was located in Akoko community in Delta State, and he pretty much gave Chigozie the budget. Ascent trusted his cousin to do this job very well because maybe 1, it's his cousin, and maybe 2, Chigozie was definitely good at his job. So when Chigozie received the contract to run this fish pond for his brother, he went to hire some construction workers. Some sources said from Benue State. It's unclear if he went straight to Benue State to get these construction workers, or these construction workers work in Delta State and they just happen to be from Benue State. And so in December of 2024, the construction started. According to what is going around, somehow, some way, these workers found out that Chigozie had a huge sum of money in his bank account, and they saw it as an opportunity to enrich themselves. Now, it's not clear how they found out he had a huge sum of money. I would not have understood that. Maybe they figured since it's a big fish pond they are constructing, he would have a huge sum of money, which, to be honest with you, I don't think so. Unless you are being called to construct a skyscraper, then you would know the engineer had a huge sum of money. But a fish pond, my guess is that because from what we are hearing, he tried to stop some of them from stealing from the site. He was very particular about his job. He was very strict with the workers, and he had issues with paying them on time, sort of, in a way. But it could have been that during payment, the network was bad, and so they were complaining that they hadn't received their money, and he was trying to convince them that it was not his fault that they hadn't received their money. And in the bid to convince them that money is not the issue, he may have shown, or he may have done this transaction right in front of one of them, who somehow, some way in that process saw his bank balance, saw his account balance, saw how much money was in his account. And when they saw it, they had a whole new idea. Rather than give them the 10,000 naira a day wages, they were like going to have everything in this man's bank account. So these construction workers all spoke among themselves. Apparently, they are all from the same tribe in Benue, so they were able to use their native language to communicate their plan on how to get a hold of the money in Chigozie's account. They tried to kill Chigozie on the 10th of December, but they couldn't because all that was left on the site was just a plank, and they were scared because they thought it through. This is one of them confessing. They thought it through among themselves, and they were like, you know what? It's just sticks that is here, and this is a grown man, he might fight back. And so they waited the next day, the 11th. By this time, they had gone to buy rope, and they had come with a hammer. And when Chigozie came to site, hoping to supervise the work, hoping to see how this is going, he was viciously attacked by all his construction workers. All the people he hired pounced on him, and they used the hammer on him, killing him instantly, tying him up and burying him in a shallow grave near the pond that they were constructing. They also threw in the hammer they had used to kill him. The murder weapon was thrown into the grave along with the rope, and then they took his phone. Now, I don't know what they were thinking these days. how do you, unless maybe they forced him to route out the money, because I don't think these construction workers thought through what they were doing. I don't think so. This must be illiteracy of the highest order, because I don't think they were even able to succeed to steal the money. So what was the point? Apparently, they thought all they needed to do was kill him, take the phone to somebody who would hack it and break through it, and then they'll be able to collect the money from it. I think that was their plan. That was what they thought would happen. The shocking thing is, after they killed Chigozie and buried him in the shallow grave, they did not run. They actually went back to work. They actually went back to constructing the fish pond. And then, that same day, Ascent, the cousin to Chigozie, the one who gave Chigozie the contract to do this, came back and was like, have you guys seen your boss? Where is Chigozie? Where's my cousin? And they all denied seeing Chigozie, not knowing Chigozie has been buried next to the pond. They couldn't reach Chigozie on the phone, and after a whole day, Ascent had to go to the police to report that his cousin was missing. And this was December period in Delta State. Chigozie did not come home to his wife and his children, and eventually word got around that Chigozie is missing. He had disappeared. Unfortunately for Ascent, given that he is the successful businessman who gave Chigozie the job, and it was at his job that Chigozie went missing, family people began suspecting him. They began suspecting him of using Chigozie for rituals. Ascent was arrested. They took him to multiple native doctors to swear. Many of the family members of Chigozie believed in their hearts that Ascent was the one who had killed their brother, because again, he was a successful businessman. So they assumed that he had used Chigozie for money rituals. Chigozie was dragged to multiple deities, multiple juju, and was forced and made to swear that he had nothing to do with the disappearance and the maybe death of their loved one Chigozie, because at the time they did not know he was dead, but they suspected, they believed that he had been killed by Ascent. Ascent did not just end at the swearing. Obviously, they had nothing on him. Normally, he would have gone on with his life, thinking maybe Chigozie ran away with the money. But Ascent continued to work with the police because he too needed to know where his cousin was. This was not just a random construction worker. This was his cousin. This was his family. This was his brother. Somehow, some way, through some form of intelligence that we don't know, the police were able to trace two people in March of 2025, nearly 4 months since Chigozie vanished. They arrested a man named David and another man named Daniel. Unfortunately, the Daniel guy confessed that yes, he was on site the day Chigozie went missing, and he was the one who made it clear that Chigozie actually is not missing, that Chigozie is dead and was murdered. The David guy by the name of David Tacho happens to be the brother of another guy that was on the construction site, Victor Tacho. He said that his only role was that Victor, his brother, brought the phone to him to help access the phone so they could access the money. With this confession, Daniel took the police to where Chigozie's body was buried, and that was where it was exhumed, dug out, and in 3 months he was already completely decomposed. There was nothing left of him other than bones. The bones and his ripped clothes and, pretty much the weapons and the ropes. It was just a terrible sight to see. And I think at this point, the story comes out to the whole world. And I guess this just helps family pulls their eye away from Ascent. As at the time of making this story, the police are still looking for the other suspects. They're still looking for the other people who were involved. Daniel claimed that he saw the killing happen, but he did not take part in it. I don't know what that means. Obviously, they will always say, I not follow. But again, I still wanted to understand how the police were able to trace these two people. I feel like it couldn't have been through money. If they were able to access the money and remove the money from Chigozie's phone, it would have been a lot faster for the police to trace where the money went. I believe that they went through Chigozie's account, through his bank, and they were trying to find out if money was moved and maybe money wasn't moved. Because again, unless they knew the password, unless they knew the PIN, unless they knew something from the phone, even if at that, unless they were able to know something regarding the details of how to access the money, they wouldn't have been able to access it. Unless someone knew on the site, maybe he had typed it in front of them and they had seen it, or maybe they had forced him to say the PIN, beaten him to say it before they completely killed him. And then they would have taken the money, and then it would have been easier to trace where that money went. I think what ASN did was to, find the construction workers. Because after Chigozie most likely went missing, in as much as they went back to work, they knew what they had done, and I don't see them coming back to work the next day. So I believe that they pretty much eventually would run away. Not that day, but the next day or the day after that. I don't think they ended up finishing the job. They'll most likely want to get out of there because they've literally just killed a man. And I think them running away may have raised the flags and may have raised the red flags. And that would make the police want to look more into the construction workers, because that is where Chigozie should have been, and that is most likely where he would have gone missing. And the only people that would have known were the people who were there. So the police most likely trace their ways into finding back these construction workers all over again. But it could also still be the money, given that one of the person that they caught was given the phone to access the money. So the David Tacho man may have been the direct point. That is, if they traced the mobile phone, they would have gotten to the David Tacho. But the two people that brought the phone to David Tacho was not Daniel. So I guess they had different routes and different ways and different methods, and they were able to get this too. They most likely traced it through the phone, and then they also most likely traced it to the names of the people who suddenly should be in Delta State, but somehow, some way went back to Benue State, which I still don't know where they caught them, if they were caught in Benue State or caught still in Delta State. But the whole people, the two suspects that were caught were paraded in Delta State. Such a very stressful story. Like, it's unfortunate. You never really can tell what people are capable of in a work site like this. It must have been a very horrific and horrifying experience for Chigozie. It's like, oh, see, this is what happens when you want to give people a chance. He could have easily called people he knew from his own family and given them the job, but he called these random ones, maybe because they were cheap, but it's just unfortunate. I'm not gonna lie, it's sad, but I'm just happy that the killers have been found so far or so close, and I know the police will most likely find the rest. It should be easy because now we know their names, and I'm sure the police know what they look like. This is why you have to be careful who you employ. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I know we'll be following this story, so turn on your notification button. Whenever there is an update, you'll be the first to get notified.